What's going on, friends? Sean Don is back with 2022 Program 6 Recap, starting now. Before we get into this video, I just want to mention that if anybody is in need of online coaching, go check out my website, www.gripandrip.co. Business has been booming lately. It's been really cool to help out so many different people in the track and field world. There's a ton of different options depending on what your needs are, whether it be in-depth technical analysis, throws, or lifting programming, or if you're even a coach or an athlete who wants to sit down and chat with me one-on-one and pick my brain, you can do an online consultation. Now's the time to sign up if you want to make those big technical gains for later in the season when it really matters. Once again, go check out gripandrip.co. It might be linked up here in the corner or maybe down below in the description for sure, all right? Without further ado, let's get into this Program 6 recap. The focus of this program was the 9 kilo hammer. If you've been following these recaps, then you know that I've been working my way up in hammer weights over the past few cycles. This is cycle 3 of 4 in my preseason macro cycle, where I'm really focused on building specific strength and laying a solid technical foundation for later this season. The specific warm-up this program is relatively simple, using some 10K winds to help kind of potentiate my body for the 9K, as well as help prepare me for next cycle where I will be throwing the 10K hammer. Following that is a 9K walk-around drill where I finish off with 4 or 5 turns or so. I really do enjoy these. They help me build a good awareness of like the full 360 degrees of each turn, and they also help me find good direction, which is key not just for throwing heavier hammers, but all hammers, really. Getting into full throws, I started out this program with 14 throws per session, 5 days per week, and slowly worked up to 18 throws per session over the 3 weeks of the program. This is kind of starting to get up into my higher range of volumes for me personally. Might not seem like much to some, but honestly I can get super fatigued when I start taking more than 12 to 15 throws per session when I'm throwing 5 days per week. But I'm trying to break out of that mold and build up slowly and see if that can really help with technical acquisition and adaptation. All in all, this cycle started out really solid though. Normally the transition to heavy hammers, especially the 9K and 10K, is usually a big struggle for me. I attribute this easier transition to 2 things. Number one, and perhaps less important than the second, is that I'm throwing the 9K on a shorter wire than previous years. I used to just throw every hammer on a 16-pound competition length wire and handle, which means light hammers would technically be a little short, and heavier hammers like this would be a couple centimeters long because of the ball diameter. I did it kind of out of convenience, but also thought that maybe it'd help improve my feeling, where the 16-pound competition hammer, which is made of tungsten, which typically tends to feel significantly longer than a normal 16 in training for me. So it did help in a way, but I think it also hurt in a way as well, because I think the added length made it hard to feel the 16 as it went around the left. It felt a little short and changed up the timing. So it also inflated throwing distances, like my ego loved that, but as Ryan Holiday says, the ego is the enemy, and I'm trying to kind of tone that down in this season. So those improved inflated distances kind of set unrealistic expectations for how far I should throw the 16-pound in competition. So this year I got a few shorter wires and I'm using that, so distances are taking a hit, but that is making the 9K transition much more manageable. Secondly, I think my new technical changes have really helped my stability. Understanding how the rotation of hammer really works, improving posture, and limiting turbulence are all things that have made throwing these heavier hammers easier. If you want more information on this, go check out my Patreon linked below in the description, where I post almost daily videos of all my throws and technical changes and ideas that I'm working on within a session. Throwing started out really well, and I had the best consistency I've ever had the first 2 weeks of this program. The start of week 2, I took a little trip up to LA to practice travel and being out of my routine, and it actually went quite well. I was carrying a good bit of fatigue from the previous week. I was totally out of my routine. I was driving a lot, sitting down. I practiced late, I practiced early. It didn't matter. I still ended up throwing near my season's best, which is a big confidence builder for when I start to travel later this season for competition. Week 2 ended up being quite stressful after that. Facilities got shut down at the OTC, so I had to push back training a day. And then I filmed some content with Rudy Winkler, Sam Madison, Noah Kennedy White, as they were out at the OTC for a training camp. That took up a good bit of time and energy, so that's why I've kind of been behind on these YouTube videos. But I'm back, so be on the lookout for those videos over the next month or so. Hopefully I can put together some good content for you guys. Either way, week 2 ended up nicely. On Saturday, I ended up setting a solid season's best of 64.14 meters with a 9K hammer, which indicates some improvement from the previous cycle where I threw the 18-pound 68 meters. Week 3 was kind of a shit show though. It was a hot mess for a few reasons. The biggest reason was lifting volume and intensity, I think. I'll elaborate more on that later, but also as I fatigued, I forgot some important technical cues. I didn't realize this until the cycle was over, but as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Basically, I struggled my way through week 3, where at the end I did a double test and my first kind of hard throwing mock competition sort of days to practice a back-to-back qualifying and finals day like there's going to be at World Championships later this year. Friday was test day 1 and it started out well. I had a lot of energy and tension on the ball and threw 2 solid high 63 meter throws after 2 warm-up throws, but then things went downhill very fast after that. Started shanking throws left hard like I did at trials and kind of gave me like low-key PTSD, honestly. Either way, coach and I decided to work through it. We worked on changing my mental approach and identifying kind of the bigger technical weak points that were occurring when I started throwing hard. It was tough, but it was very beneficial. Ended up doing like a full 18 throw session for this test and threw 64 meters again on my last throw for redemption, if you will. It was good to work through it. As for Saturday, test day 2, I had the opportunity to fix those technical problems and ingrain them a little bit better, and it was better, but by this point I was fatigued a little bit after a full session and still managed some decent tosses. The big technical things I had to fix basically comes down to the same stuff as before. I was trying to limit turbulence, trying to not let the hammer rise or drop too much on me, and then I focused a bit more on my posture and what my hips were doing. Basically, as I was throwing with more intensity, I relaxed more, and these things I just described kind of get out of whack due to feeling greater tension from the hammer. There's more force pulling on my body. Additionally, I did get caught up in feeling the winds off to the right side of the body a little bit too much towards the end of the program, which kind of left the hammer behind me on entry and almost every turn, and as I've learned since then, that makes it really hard to work with the hammer, and you really just end up fighting against it for each and every turn. These test sessions were certainly tough, and some might consider them a failure in terms of execution, but as they say, you either win or you learn, and these quote-unquote failures taught me a lot about myself and my approach towards competing, and I consider that a huge win in my book. Better to learn these lessons now than in competition later this season. So yeah, Program 6 throwing, really promising stuff. Took some big strides forwards this program, I think. On to lifting. Program 6 lifting was a bit different than the previous 2 programs. This was what I would consider a flat-loaded 3-day, 3-week cycle, meaning that I was essentially doing the same lifts each week with just minor changes in volume and intensity compared to my previous programs 4 and 5, where there was much more undulation involved. Day 1 of this Program 6 lifting was a moderate volume, moderate intensity day with snatch and front squats as the primary lifts. Day 2 was a high-intensity, low-volume strength day focused on cleans and squats, and Day 3 was a speed lift with more snatches and step-ups and some other light accessory stuff. With strength being the focus of this program, I was adding volume each week with small increases in loads, maybe like a 5% bump each week. Turns out this wasn't a very good idea, as the first week or 2 were good, but come week 3 my body was just totally toasted because of the high intensity and increasing volume. Additionally, with the strength focus, I was using higher loads, typically over 80-90%, primarily focused on multiple sets of 2 and 3. For day 1, it was flat loaded triples at like, let's say 5x3, 75% on main lifts, and then for day 2, my high intensity lift, I'd hit a high intensity double or triple at 85-95% on clean or squat before dropping down and hitting some back off sets at 10-15% below my high intensity set to help accumulate more volume and build some more strength. While throwing towards the end wasn't exactly optimal due to the increased fatigue, I did get stronger and ended the cycle by hitting a sturdy 170K double on clean pull, and then a also sturdy 170K for 3 on back squat. Felt like I was probably good for 5 here, which is a good confidence builder in terms of the weight room. There's this fucking giant truck out there, bro. Can you not? I honestly should just close the window, but either way. This cycle is similar to the last, where it's a 2-parter. In Program 7, I'm also going to be focused on strength and hitting some planned season best numbers in the weight room. And right now I'd say my 1RMs are around 180K in clean and probably 190 to 200K in back squat, which is decent for me and certainly enough for me to throw 80 meters in my opinion. So things are trending upwards. They're on the right track. So that pretty much wraps up Program 6, I think. If you guys enjoyed the video, I highly recommend you check out my Patreon page, where, as I said, I post almost daily training videos showing all of my technical developments. I also put together more in-depth periodization overviews at the start of each cycle, explaining why I do what I do. You get to take a good, solid look at the matrix that is my brain and my training system. And on top of that, you get to chat with me more directly. All of my Patreon members get all the little secrets that I otherwise don't share on my YouTube channel. All in all, my Patreon is a great tool to expand your throwing and programming and coaching knowledge. So please go check it out. Linked below in the description, or maybe up here in the corner again, I don't know. The Patreon community has been bussin' lately. We have over 30 members. Just want to say thank you to each and everyone who has decided to join along in this journey with me. Much love. I appreciate each and every one of you. Also, the next live Q&A exclusive to Patreon members is this Sunday, March 27th, 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Be sure to join in before then and get special access to all these little knowledge bombs I'm going to be dropping. Last time around, it was fun to chat about all the little intricacies of technique, and this time around, I think it'll be perhaps even better. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to smash the like button, help me beat the algorithm, and then subscribe. And if you found value in this video, all I ask is that you share it with just one other person. Gotta spread the good word of the hammer throw, help grow the community, help grow the sport, because I love this stuff, man. I want it to be the biggest sport there has ever been, which is a task, but we'll see what we can do. And I gotta start by doing this stuff, and you guys can help me out as well. Join me on this journey. So, remember folks, grip and rip, baby! And until next time, Sean Don, signing off.